Yeah, welcome to another edition of Google's Evil. Yeah, it really is. This Google speak. You can't say anything. Can't call anything stupid. You can't, all the words you can't use anymore in even composing a comment. It's just such a pile of crap. Anyway, yuck. So made a video. Usual routine, blah 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 blah. So it was a combination video. I took two videos, one made by Matt, Thou Art That, and one by the Modern Mystic, sort of in some way, supposedly talking about what it is, meaning of life kind of crap. Or what is life, or what is being alive, conscious, blah blah blah, thinking, feeling, blah blah. Man, it really doesn't, it's all blah blah, and I'm just responding to the blah blah that they're blah blahing. And so it's a good enough video, I'd say. So we'll play a couple of clips from it, see if there's any ideas that need further elaboration, and blah blah. Where, there's just all kinds of shenanigans and crapola, and it's not even a rational test. It's all tricks. A rational test in that, oh, I'm an honorable and decent person. Don't know exactly what I was getting at, but that whole idea of being tested, of being, measured for even like heaven, and it doesn't matter what you do, it just matters whether you're baptized. I mean, it's so irrational, it's so stupid. And great lines from movies. I mean, deserve has nothing to do with it, right? From whatever that was called. And just the idea that that's exactly the point. Everything about our existence should have something to do with merit pay, and deserve having everything to do with it, and us being rationally rewarded and punished for our functionality, and all of those little mechanisms should be part of the game, and them not being part of the game, that is, us not signing up for what we end up in, the jeopardy. Somebody else making a decision for us, circumcise or don't circumcise, do the right thing or, leave it to nature. All these little questions, all these circumstances that shouldn't exist, in the sense that we should not be subjected to anything but a controlled game of simply understanding, well, you stack the blocks the proper way and you make the thing, and you just follow the instructions, so to speak. And this game that's how the game should be played by us, even if the reward and punishment isn't correct for us individually. We should be smart enough to know, I can do that myself. I can feel guilty because they're starving people in China, so to speak. Crest, 60s, and it really wasn't the 60s, right? The beginning of the 60s was still pretty repressed. Oh my God, Elvis, kill him. To, a bunch of hippies dancing. So, just getting to the idea of, all right, first we have to start with some frame for the narrative, and so this frame was started with a movie reference, and that has something to do with the transitions in these different decades of what humans become. And so I sort of make the argument that, of how disconnected that history is, that it doesn't flow in a direction at all, that it's just kind of this jittery, crooked line going sideways, rather than where it should be, which is we progressively build on our understanding. We figure out evolution, we take these necessary steps to figure out what we are, we figure out how controlled we are by these little tiny events in our lives, these little kind of shocking events, events where your parent dies, or this happens or that happens, different things happen, and it has a critical impact on who you become as a human being, and that we have to control those environments. We have to control that kind of event happening if we're going to control what kind of human beings we create. And all of that is just logical. And it has a self-interest in that it feels its pain. It doesn't feel somebody else's pain. Again, this whole this is a gigantic argument to be made about just how important it is to recognize that if we did feel other people's pain, we wouldn't play the same game. The game would be entirely different, and for good reason. But the reason would be exactly the same. The outcome is the same. You know, in the terms of the outcome for the individuals. Obviously, if you're feeling everybody else's pain, then you'd also be another victim of that pain. But the point is that our behavior should be directed by knowledge that this is already a circumstance that exists, in the sense that their pain is just as important. Whether you feel it or not is irrelevant. Whether you think something's cute or not, whether you did all this crap is not part of reasoning and understanding the world we're navigating. So you have to understand it without the visceral feeling. You have to know the sound is there even though you're wearing the earmuff, so to speak, and you can't personally hear it. You have to know what this signal means. And there's every bit of fact is pointing to the fact that every person's individual pain is just as important as any other person's individual pain in terms of it being an experience happening inside of a brain. And that equality means you should be just as devoted, rationally and logically, there's no reason to not be, just as devoted to mitigating and preventing harm to others as you are involved in preventing harm to yourself. It's the same thing as a practical fact. Preventing their pain is just as good as preventing your own. That fact is apparently insanely elusive, and very few humans will encounter it in their lifetime. But it's the biggest fact there is. And that if you really did appreciate that, if you could feel their pain, frankly, you wouldn't play the game, okay? You would recognize that there's way too much of that. If you had to relive the number of failures for the tiny number of successes, you would recognize that there's too much failure. Pointed as possible, and there's just way too much detail left out. Alright, so this is just recognizing that, okay, this whole idea of what our brain is finite, there's a finite limit to our understanding, a finite limit to the facts we can contain, but obviously the story is Three Bears. The story is Red Riding Hood. The story is Run, Spot, Run. The story of this image is so much simpler than the detail of the image, and all the details are superfluous and redundant and useless. I mean, blades of grass. We don't need blades of grass. We understand the collective knowledge of what it is. We don't need to know it molecularly. We don't need to know it atomically. We don't need to know any of that other crap. So the number of important facts in any moment of your existence, the number of important facts is very small. Okay, the number that you're going to be exposed to is huge. I see a representation of it projected on a screen. So my brain is taking, so the brain is just creating the you, the little I feel, and I think. I don't know how I do any of that, but I do it. And it's creating a screen that I'm watching, events that I produce, what I say, what other people say. That all gets projected on a screen that I witness. I witness my behavior, I witness their behavior, I witness the interaction of the two. I witness the living experience, but I do not witness the creation of my reactions. So I see it, my body reacts, my brain reacts. I mean, obviously the body is part of the brain reaction in terms of the hormones, the moods, the belching, the little different things that get in the way, hiccup, So, but it's all just a reaction. I don't really do any of it. I don't have anything to do with it, as far as I know. I'm just watching. And so we're sitting, we're nailed to the chair. The chair is, shoving all kinds of input in terms of sensation into us, and it's just reacting to the images it projected on the screen. So it just built this, the brain is just this theater, and every part of the theater, it's all synthetic in the brain space, but it's all happening as an event. The real electronics is making it happen. The arrangement of neurons is making it happen. That arrangement, put in a bottle in space, is still going to be doing the same thing. You can cut off all the superfluous parts. I can cut off my hand and my brain still works. I can cut off all kinds of pieces, and so we can cut off pieces of the brain. We can pull out neurons that aren't important, that aren't doing too much. And there's some little essence piece that's doing this thinking, feeling, interacting thing. That's the theater. It's synthetic, but obviously it's real in the sense that you're experiencing it, so you have to concede, yep, it's pretty fucking real. So it really isn't a deep subject. It really isn't. You can't go very far with it. I mean, it's clearly a mechanical process that produces something that seems quite, wow, that's something, isn't it? But it really is something just mechanical. It's just a mechanical device producing a mechanically produced syndrome, a syndrome of, hey, I'm conscious, whatever the fuck that is. That means I have these sensations and I have these thought idea thingies. So I have some sort of value thing that's doing this good and bad feeling thing. And then I have these abstract, logical, blah, blah, blah thoughts of, mixing concepts and moving ideas around. I hate to say so what, like it's not impressive, but it's not mechanically inconceivable. And the only part that makes it something is, whoa, this feeling thing. And the feeling thing is just so damn dangerous. Quite obviously dangerous. Stomach aches, or whatever. Anal spatter. Well, we could have missed that part, huh? So, anyway, hopefully there's not too much of that in the video. So I don't know exactly what I was referencing, just pointing out the idea that there's this two qualities of experience, good stuff and bad stuff, and the fact that we exist in a system that does not provide clear and decisive mechanisms for voting for the good stuff and voting against the bad stuff, and instead we have a bunch of systems that are broken that don't allow us to do that directly, or control any of that, or in any way produce a future that will ensure that we can't do any of these rational things. And without that rational connection between will, conclusion about how to play the game. I want to play the game by kicking the ball forward, and all they do is give you mechanisms for kicking it sideways. Well, why play a game where I can't kick the ball forward? How do we maximize the good bits and just get rid of all these negative bits? Right. That's the only rational objective. It's the clear course. You sit here, put in this position. You wake up here on Earth. That's the first thing that should occur to you is that there's feelings, and we have to make sure we don't do those bad ones, and we have as many of those good ones as possible. It's just the logical thing to do. It's the only immediate, obvious value in this whole silly game, is preserving the feeling thing, preserving the feelings, maintaining the feeling machine, the atmosphere within the air within the theater, keep it breathable, keep it comfortable. It's the obvious agenda. So reproducing, so in some sense it's a win. Kill them now once, and then, all right, so just a sort of a talk about this whole idea of the good intention, what's the right thing to do, this stupid notion that the worst thing that can happen to you is die. Well, it's not the worst thing that can happen to you. A lot worse things can happen to you. It's how you die. It's really important, all of that, But anyway, when and how, and you know, don't want to go into it, but I mean, clearly you could make an argument that if you could, you know, wipe out an ancestor of Hitler's, it would be okay. All the losses of all the lives that didn't take place because you wiped out that ancestor, the math would basically say, oh, it was worth it. Good exchange.
Do not require any particular actuality.
So they don't have to be real. Yay! You know, it's just such babble. The Matt video is just such word soup, jargon, blah blah blah, mush mush mush. Just horrible.
I'm putting these things together just to say that our idea of what life is based on ideas, thoughts, but they've got big holes or questions.
Okay, so this is more mush about how this is some sort of, you know, like there's some hole or missing piece, or, you know, we don't have enough of the story. We have all the story we need. We can basically diagram billions of years of cosmic evolution, whether it's Big Bang, no Big Bang, who cares, black holes, smack holes, who cares. I mean, the basic idea of the big universe, little balls bouncing around, yeah, it works fine. And the idea of what's happened to us, we're transitioning from the little squiggly worm into the, you know, crawly, swimmy thing, into, you know, the thing that crawls out of the ocean and starts squirming around on the land. And you know, this, it's not a complex, it's not a hard, tedious story to understand. It's a crude, you know, simple kind of story, simple rules of the evolution. What can happen, and there's no bending of the story into some three bears happily ever after narrative. That's not what the story's writing. That's not the book nature is writing. And it's obvious it's not writing it. We've just made life sillier. We haven't made it better. But it's not in somebody else's brain. It's not synthesized. It's not imagined. It's not in some pre-existing structure. It's in a... Yeah, so none of the pieces. We're not made out of souls. We're not made out of spirits. We're not made out of gremlins. We're not made out of any of this crap. We're just made out of atomic bits. The atomic bits are pushed around by force bits. The thing is just really simple. And it's just a mechanical process that can get complicated. It makes puzzle pieces. It prints on the puzzle pieces. Sometimes the puzzles can make images. So what? There's no magic going on here. We're just machines designed to navigate environments. That's all there is. There's nothing else. All of the features we have, our consciousness, all this, and you know, the thing that seems so big a thing, is just a tool. It's might as well just be a gun with a bullet that flies out and shoots your enemy. It's the same thing. It's for the same purpose. It's just to make you survivable in an environment, period. It doesn't have some grander purpose. It's a hoof. It's a tooth. It's an ear. It's just a feature, a tool. Brain is just a tool to be applied to a simple, moronic game of lay eggs and die. A very crude universe of mechanical systems. Okay, there's forces. There you go, just basically saying the same thing again. So anyway, so that's all the story is. So anyway, so I didn't finish either one of their videos, so I guess I could play them some more and do some more of this. I think I've already made the point that all this woo storytelling isn't necessary. The story is simpler than all that woo. It's just a mechanical universe. We are mechanical. We're robotic. We didn't have any choice to become something different than what you become. You didn't have a choice to act differently than you acted. you were set up to be the role you're playing. It doesn't change the fact that logic and reasoning and how we talk to each other will have something to do with persuading each other or swaying each other or turning each other, and all of that is a true, real fact in the universe. Things go viral, things do change, things do trigger events, and that we have to try to trigger the right events, and that we know the probabilistic outcomes, so we know that, you know, if you want a certain end, that you have to push the button that gets that end. You know how to use a calculator. You know if you want 2 plus 2, you have to hit the plus sign. You can't hit the minus sign. You can't divide. You can't multiply. We know what buttons we have to push. And it's just bullshit to say that somehow we're going to say it's nature's fault, or it's the world's fault, or it's the universe's fault that, you know, we keep doing stupid things. Because the stupid things are obvious and apparent, and, you know, it's as obvious as pressing the wrong button on the calculator. And so what's the excuse? You know, we know that all the people are doing is pressing the button that says I win and you lose. They just keep pressing that button. Yeah, that's why the world sucks, is because they just keep pressing that button. They keep pressing the create a bunch of debt as long as I'm the bank and I get to loan it to you and I get to make interest and my stocks go up and my house value, you know, as long as I'm winning. As long as I win, it's a great system. That kind of horse shit. And we know that's the button everybody's pressing on their calculator. They're not pressing the right button, and it's obvious it's not the right button. They can know it's not the right button. It's not the save the world button or save humanity button or save all the feeling organism button. It's the what's in it for me button. It says right on it, what's in it for me. It's obvious that's the button we're pressing all the time. We're all vulnerable to seeing, you know, I'm going to pretend I can't see well enough to see it says what's in it for me, and it doesn't say do the right thing. You know, we know when we're pressing those buttons. So quit the bullshit, quit the horse shit. You know, all these pro-life assholes, just admit the selfish, you know, cretin that you are, and that you know that most people aren't doing any better, and they might be doing substantially worse in terms of always pressing the wrong button. None of us are Olympic champions at pushing the right button. So just quit this bullshit about this pro-life horse shit. This is a bad game and we're playing it badly. That's all it is. So quit bullshitting. Alright, anyway, till the next time, such and so forth and whatnot. Many things to get to, much to do, blah 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 blah. Not enough me's to do it all. And such. Yes, it's the way, yeah. Yeah, anyway. Till the next time. Well, I can't do any better than that. Till the next time. That's all you can get. It's sorry. Not enough in it for you? Well, sorry. Anyway. Till the next time and such. This has been a Google is fucking really evil video presentation provided by donotgod.com. Your friend. And such. Alright, so enough. See ya. And such. Laters. Yeah. I'm just waiting for my brain to come up with some other, what's a really stupid reference that you could just end with, man. As soon as you look for something stupid in your brain, you can't find anything stupid. But anyway, till the next time. Such. And so forth and whatnot. Blah, blah, blah.